Okay, so today's notes should hopefully be a review for us. We're going to look at two types of changes. And our first type of change that we're going to look at is a physical change. A physical change is a change in which the substance's identity does not change. So a change without changing the identity of a substance. For example, if I took this piece of paper and I tore it in half, it's still a piece of paper. I've changed the paper. It's no longer the same size or shape, but it is still paper. Another example, solid ice melting into liquid water. All right, it's still ice, it's still water. It's just in the solid form or the liquid form. All right, so phase changes are a type of physical change. All right, so a phase change. If I cut something in half, it's the same. If I crush it, it's the same. If I dissolve, it's the same. What does dissolve mean? All right, when I put sodium chloride, that's table salt, in water, what happens here is the water separates the sodium chloride into sodium ions and chloride ions. So all we're doing is taking and breaking the attraction between the sodium and the chlorine to create sodium chloride in terms of their ions, sodium and chloride ions. So that's what dissolving is. All right, so the sodium and the chloride is still there floating around in the water. It's just no longer in the solid form. It's in the ion form, which we would call AQ4 aqueous. All right, a physical change. I'm sorry, a chemical change. A chemical change is a change that changes the identity of the substance itself. All right, so we essentially are making something new. So a change which also changes identity, which we said making something new. Okay, so what are some examples of chemical change? If I burn this piece of paper, I would end up with ash. All right, so I'm taking the paper and I'm making ash. I'm making something new. Rusting. When something rusts, that metal is rusting, is becoming something new. Our digestive system. Our digestive system takes the food that we eat and it breaks it down into new things and extracts out the nutrients. It uses it for energy, all kinds of things, all right? But we're making new stuff in the process. Now, there are 4 signs that a chemical change has occurred, and you're going to want to know these 4 signs. Okay, our first sign is that we have light and or heat being produced. All right, so the production of heat or light. And for example, we said if we burn paper, well, we know if we were to burn paper, it does produce light and heat. The formation of a gas. And now if we were to do a chemical experiment, how would we know that a gas has been produced? We would see bubbles. So if you see bubbles, then a gas has been produced. The formation of a precipitate. Now, what is a precipitate? A precipitate is a solid. So if I take two substances that are aqueous and I make something that is solid, okay? So a solid, and we're going to do some examples with this in class. You're going to get to see this actually happening to make it make a little bit more sense to you. All right, but it is the formation of a precipitate, which is a solid. Now you will see the term precipitate sometimes abbreviated PPT. So if you see PPT, that is the abbreviation for precipitate. Our final one is a change in color. Now this is the one that really gets students tricked up most often. We are talking about a change in color in terms of a new color. So I'm going from no color to white, or I'm going from red to green, or blue to yellow, or some sort of actual new color. We're not talking about red becoming less red. We're not talking about green becoming less green. All right, red, if it becomes less red, well, it's still red. That's not a change in color. It's the same color, just a different shade. We're talking about a brand new color here. So please keep that in mind when we talk about a change in color.